Okay, an important frame of mind as we begin this process. Two things. First of all, the backdrop behind me, I just wanted to acknowledge it because we are in startup mode here and we are picking colors for the walls, improving upon this studio. You'll even see kind of a hint of the green screen behind me. This is the studio that I'm in the process of creating to bring continually great content to the client dashboard. So ignore all of that and keep your focus on what I'm about to present to you next, which is the magic of the system. This is a truly unique and proprietary system based on more than 20 years of my work in the field as a fitness professional in a variety of different settings: corporate wellness, strength and conditioning coach, personal trainer, fitness coach, in gyms, in my own private studio, in athletic programs, in corporate wellness programs, etc. This is a very, very powerful application, and I want you to think you could be someone. I want you to think about this two ways. You could be someone who's interested in hiring me to come and run your corporate wellness program, or a fitness pro interested in using my tool to go out and find your own corporate wellness accounts, or to bring your own fitness business to a completely new level and add a whole nother list of services and revenue streams for your business. So keep all that in mind as we begin. There's another important concept to remember, that as we begin this process, it's an important frame of mind, and it is that we are partners in improving your programs, okay? Through sophisticated measurement, through education, and through the use of this unique proprietary software application that I have spent the last 3 years building, that is working swimmingly now. I am very excited about it, and I won't save it till the end, but if you're interested in talking to me about this software application, just send me an email to John, John, at thefitnessnomad.com, and we'll set up some time on the phone. I'd be happy to talk with you and find out how we might be able to help you. So, what does this tool do? What does this software application do? It does all of the following: data management, client population management. It's a virtual coaching and communication platform. So there's the coach side and the client side. And of course, it's an extremely effective corporate wellness tool. How do you improve health and fitness outcomes? All right. So yeah, we have this great tool, and I'm really excited about it, obviously. But what the real point of this is, the real question here is, how do you improve health and fitness outcomes? Well, and ultimately client outcomes and healthcare claim rates, because this is the big thing that everybody's trying to work toward in corporate wellness, is how do we reduce the number of claims in our companies to keep healthcare costs down? We do it through interventions. And that is a lot of what's going on in corporate wellness right now, is a lot of interventions, a lot of fitness classes offered inside companies, a lot of nutrition classes and workshops and lunch and learns, and a variety of different things that are going on. What I'm talking about is taking those and ramping them up and actually building a more well-rounded, measurable corporate wellness program so that you can really make a determination of whether or not you are reducing healthcare claim rates, for example. There are 4 parts to this process. Okay. The first one is accountability, participation, and adherence. You have to get people to participate and adhere to the programs you offer, or they're not going to do any good. One of the biggest challenges is to get the people who are not already healthy participating in your programs. And there are aspects of this application that I've built that are designed specifically to help you do that. Number 2 is assessments, outcomes, and data collection. Most people, most companies, corporate wellness programs, fitness studios, gyms, do a horrible job of keeping track of their data. They also do a horrible job of performing regular assessments and tracking outcomes so that they can look more closely at a measurable result. Are we making improvements here? So we're going beyond the HRA. The health risk assessment is a start, but we need to take that process, that baseline process, and take it to the next level by doing regular assessments, collecting regular outcomes, looking at that data a little bit more closely, and designing our programs based on what we find. And what we find a lot of, if people are collecting data, is that they're putting it into Excel spreadsheets, but then beyond that, there isn't a whole lot happening. The third part is the participation, motivation, retention, and education. So these are all really important, along with the accountability and participation, which I already mentioned once. I threw that in here too. You've got to keep people motivated, and you've got to retain that motivation, and you need to educate them so that They are building the tools, strategies, and behaviors that help them be successful with their wellness. Fourth part of the process is program evaluation, reporting, and measurement, which I talked about when I was talking about number 2, data collection. You collect the data, you analyze the data, and then you evaluate and build reports and measurement systems from that data so that you can improve your programs. We're going to address all 4 here today. What are the challenges and the problems inherent in this process? The first one is the data problem. As I said, collecting good data, building effective and efficient measurement systems into your corporate wellness program, fitness studio, gym, etc. Most places do not have this. And I've talked to enough now to be able to say that with a fair amount of confidence. Then you need some system and some way of being able to analyze that data. And here's an example. How we solve the data problem. So we take data that's in an Excel spreadsheet here, and if you look closely at this, this is my Amazon order history. It was the best, easiest spreadsheet I can pull up that didn't infringe on anybody's confidentiality except my own. So we take data that if you are collecting data, typically it's in an Excel spreadsheet. It looks something like this. And you know it's valuable, and you know it's important, but you have no idea what to do with it, and here's what we do with it. Now these 2 shots are not that sexy, but they're going to give you an idea of what's going on here. So one of our customers, Graham Hospital, one of the things that we're tracking for them is the percentage in the populations of their employees who have risk factors for the metabolic syndrome, and also, of course, those who do have the metabolic syndrome, and they pay out various bonuses and variety of things that they're doing. I'm not going to go into detail. What this shows you is that for more than 400 employees, we dump the data from the Excel spreadsheets into the system, and now every quarter we can pull a report that shows us the percentage of people with BP, risk factor, HDL, triglycerides, glucose, and ultimately the number of people, and you can see there on the right-hand side, 21%, who have the metabolic syndrome currently today. So we take all of that data from the Excel spreadsheets and pull it into more meaningful reports. One other example is just that we've stratified their blood pressure data. This is one of the ways they pay out bonuses on a quarterly basis, is if people maintain or improve their blood pressure levels, they get paid out a bonus. So we have created reports to allow them to do that. So in this case, we've just stratified people into the different blood pressure categories. You can see on the left there, 60% of the population has a BP of less than 120/80. And this isn't actually the whole population. These are the uninsured employees who are trying to achieve their bonuses. And then on the far right shows us the percentage of people who have decreased their waist circumference by 1 inch or more. So quick snapshot, boom, we know who's doing well, who's doing not, so then we can target programming to those groups as we need to or want to. The solution to the data problem I've been talking about is better organizing your data. So these images will just kind of start to give you an idea of the type of layered analysis we can perform with this software application. So let's say this circle are those employees who participated this month in corporate wellness. And then we have another circle where we're measuring the percentage of people who decrease their level of back pain. And you can decide however you want to measure that. Maybe they're just reporting on a 0 to 10 scale once a week, and you're averaging out those scores. Could be anything. And that's an important thing to remember here. You may hear something that I say. You may look at something and say, well, how in the world are we going to measure that? Or we tried that, or this. And I'll say to you, those are the things that we have to determine. Those are the things that we have to figure out. Well, what does decreased low back pain mean in your company for your employees? And let's set up a measurement criteria designed to get after that. So anyway, here are the people who decreased their back pain. Here are the people who participated in corporate wellness this month. Now what we can do is say, well, are those the same people that are participating in our corporate wellness programs? Hopefully. Now we can also say, just in this theoretical analysis, we've got that little edge of the pink salmon-colored circle that lies outside of the participation. So there's some group of people who decrease their back pain and are participating in our corporate wellness programs, which is good, still good. But let's identify who those people are and go out and find out, what are they doing? Maybe we should be doing more of that. Maybe a group of them decided to do something on their own, for example. Another layer we can add on top of this is let's also look at then the people who are increasing their levels of adherence to our corporate wellness programming and see how that overlaps with the people who are decreasing their levels of back pain. And then, of course, look at how all three of these circles overlap with each other. just to give you an idea of the type of layered, sophisticated analysis that is possible when you build efficient and effective measurement systems, you collect data, and then you report on that data. And while this may sound overly complicated because you're not used to it or it's new to you, it really is just a matter of taking it one step at a time and building these systems and making sure that the data goes in. And once that data goes in, and it can go from simple to complex, so we don't have to do a lot of really complicated data entry, because I can hear all the objections now that people saying, well, this is all really great, but we can't get people to enter any data, or it's really too time consuming, we can't get this data into the system. Bull. And if you want to improve your corporate wellness programs or your fitness programs or your studio or help your clients better, this is what you have to do, period. Okay, so now problem number 2 is the motivation problem. Motivation and engagement, right? You can have the best system in the world, but if nobody's motivated and they're not engaging with the system, nothing's going to happen. And I'm sure if you're watching this, you've probably had this experience. So we've got to be able to motivate participants, and we've got to be able to hold them accountable to the process and keep their attention. And the way I have solved this problem is in creating the client portal. All right. This is the client's own dashboard. Every day, every week, they can log in and they can take advantage of content that either you are creating or that I have syndicated into the system. So I am creating content now every week, health and fitness related content that you can take advantage of, and or you can create your own, or you can combine the two however you like. That's completely up to you. But you've got a video or a podcast of the day, a workout of the week, the most recent articles. In the middle of the screen there, you have the accountability scores. And of course, in the lower right, you have your daily inspiration. The accountability scores are based on the weekly goal map, the goal mapping technology that I've built into the system. This is a very cool system that I'm not going to go into detail now. This is one of those things where I'll say, if you're interested in this system and I've piqued your interest, give me a call and I'll take you through a more formal demonstration of how this works. But in a nutshell, this allows people, employees, clients, participants to set up goals, short-term and long-term, and keep track of their adherence to those goals by just checking off, did I do it or not? And these short-term goals can be attached to long-term goals, longer-term goals that can be set up, so that overall adherence is continually being calculated for each individual and helping to keep them motivated. 2 questions at this point. How do you possibly measure and keep track of all this stuff? As I said, I'm sure at this point you're thinking, yeah, this all sounds really great, John, but how do we keep track of all this stuff? You invest the time to build an efficient system. And that's one of the things that I help you do, either as the guy running your corporate wellness program or the guy just offering you this software application and supporting you in that way, whatever the case might be. Remember what I said when we started out here, we are partners in this process. The second question is, what do you gain from this? What do you gain from this? What you gain is actually really, really significant. What you gain from this process, I've already started talking about, is major insights about what's going on, about which interventions are actually working. So you're no longer just running a lunchtime yoga class with some level of participation and saying, well, that's really good for the group of people that's doing that. You actually know a little bit more about what is that yoga class doing for people. Insights about which interventions are not working, really, really important. About which clinicians or program directors are performing which interventions more effectively than others. We can start to take a look at that. About the groups you're working with. So we can look at, how's the accounting department doing as compared to the people in the mailroom? Are there differences there that might tell us something? How is location A doing as compared to location B? About trends, about all kinds of really great stuff about your program as a whole, so that you can continue to improve your program. Because the ultimate goal is to increase participation, decrease claim rate, and increase productivity levels. And before you go objecting again about, well, how are you going to measure that? How exactly? Again, every company, every situation, every studio, every group of participants, every situation is different. We have to sit down and figure out how we're going to measure all of this. What does increased participation mean, for example? What does decreased claim rate? How are we going to get that data into the system? Or what kind of a measurement system are we going to build so that we can really get an answer to this question? And we can get an answer to this question. It is possible if you're willing to do the legwork underneath. And then increase productivity. Well, how do you measure that? Again, you decide, but we get this layered analysis. So in the big green circle, we have all employees. And in the red circle we have, for example, all the employees who have the metabolic syndrome. Of course, all of those fit inside the employee circle. But then we can start to take a look at, well, who's participating in the corporate wellness programming, and how does that help reduce metabolic syndrome, and are the people with metabolic syndrome even participating in our wellness programs? And if not, what are we going to do about it? And then ultimately, how do decreased claim rate and increased productivity overlap and layer over this analysis? One more example, and I'm hooked on this metabolic syndrome example because it's such a prominent and important problem that everybody faces and is one of the main things that'll drive up your healthcare costs as a company. Here are all the employees and all the buckets they fall into. Here are the smaller group of them who are the ones who are participating in your corporate wellness program. Here are the people with the metabolic syndrome. And then here are all the other people with all the risk factors for the metabolic syndrome and how they overlap with each other. Some people have more than one risk factor, for example. Let's take a look at, all right, are we reducing the percentage of people with the metabolic syndrome? And if we are, how many of those people are actually the ones that are participating in our corporate wellness programs, etc.? The only way to know all of this is to measure and build systems for measurement. So the equation looks like this: intervention plus measurement, which is keeping track of metrics, keeping track of adherence, keeping track of all the measures that you keep track of or need to keep track of to get the answers you're looking at. All of that equals measured success, so that hopefully we are able to show you that you are getting a positive return on investment in your corporate wellness program. There's a lot of data out there, and it'll tell you that you'll get $2 up to $7 back in every dollar you invest in corporate wellness. There are a lot of problems with that data. There have been books recently published that question all of that data, which is all fine. They should be questioning it, because a lot of that data is coming from bigger companies and bigger organizations, and we don't have the minute details of what they're doing to actually measure these things. And you know what? It doesn't matter. What matters is that we design a measurement system, a corporate wellness system that will get you the answers that you need to these questions, so that you can keep improving your programs, and so that ultimately you have the people who are participating overall in corporate wellness and the people over here who have decreased their claim rate and increased their productivity, and you know how these circles are overlapping. So where do we go from here? As I said, we identify all the parts, we go through everything, and if you're interested, you send me an email to john@thefitnessnomad.com, and we will have a discussion about how I can help you build your program, improve your fitness studio, put this application and this software to work for you. Thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you soon.